how a doctrine of creation shapes my life and living. The first 4 words of the Bible place immediate emphasis upon God. In the beginning, God. They tell us that from the very beginning, before anything else in the universe existed, God already was. Nothing brought God into being. Nothing gave God existence. God was around long before anything else. God was around before there was even such a thing as time itself. A few key ideas about creation then. God doesn't just create the materials of the earth. God also creates time, ideas, relationships. These are all key elements of creation. Being created in the image of God means to be created to be creative. Exercising our creativity is a way of following and imitating the Creator. It's a way of showing our respect and our love to participate in the activity of creation. God created us to care about and care for God's creation. We have a special relationship responsibility for creation, and we are called to be co-creators. A doctrine of creation confronts us with the understanding that we are part of, rather than the centre of, life. There is a term that has become important over recent times, anthropocentric. This means when the centre of all life and thinking is, ta-da, humanity. Scientists refer to the Anthropocene as that era of the planet's history that has been dominated by the impacts of humanity. Humans have for millennia impacted the world around them. I remember living in France and seeing where landscapes had changed with the construction of trenches in the First and Second World Wars, or with the building of fortresses in Roman times. I have seen in the US and across Europe where river systems have been diverted for dams or canals. Humanity has the capacity to reconstruct the creation around us. We tame the wilds for our own purposes. We use our might and power for the benefit of our own economies, for our well-being, and sometimes for our greed. We place value on land and timber and minerals and water. They can become for us commodities, property. But when we place God at the centre and then think about God as creator, humankind and human desire is not the measure of all life and meaning. Rather, we are an important part of life and meaning. Christians who are serious about worshipping God must move away from a human-centered value system, a construct of our own making, to a God-centered value system. We work against God's plans if we fail to pay attention to God's intentions for the rest of creation. What are the divine values when it comes to God's world? When we neglect our responsibilities for God's garden, or when we misuse the resources we have access to, all of creation suffers, including us. But there is good news. We sometimes talk about the 5 marks of God's mission: to tell, teach, tend, transform, and treasure. That fifth one, the fifth mark of God's mission, is to strive to safeguard the integrity of creation and sustain and renew the life of the earth, to treasure creation. God did not say leave the earth alone. God does not want us to interact with the creation in poor ways, but invites us to interact with God's creation in holy and sustaining ways. Our role then is to explore, how can we do this? How can we be part of God's sacred creation? How do we treat this beautiful and glorious place with respect and love for the Creator?